Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I am joined by my friend who is afraid to walk alone in the dark, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with brand new episodes of the Filmistines. Some recent episodes include 1917, our Patreon exclusive episode of Amazon's new series Fallout, Problemista, The Revenant, Challengers, and King Richard. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. Come subscribe for $1, $5. Come request a movie. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we are discussing Bong Joon-ho's 2003 film, Memories of Murder. I just want to start off by saying that I liked this movie very much. It reminded me a little bit of our favorite Japanese film, Monster, with its mystery and uncertainty. And I swear I could hear a little bit of Laura Palmer's theme song in this too. But what do you think of Memories of Murder?
I'm with you. I really liked this movie. Don't know if I liked it quite as much as you did. With the host and, of course, one of my favorite movies of all time, Okja, I thought I would be more of a fan of this film than I am. But it was good. It did feel a little too long, but I don't know if that's quite, A, the movie's fault, because I also watched it a little bit on the later side, and maybe I was a bit tired, and B, the movie is about 2 hours, right? Maybe a little bit over. And part of the point of the movie is to make you feel as desperate as these detectives feel. So, okay, I'm not going to fault a movie for its intentional slow burn, but I felt it. I love a good Korean drama, so I was all there for that. All the dramatic scenes, the dramatic moments, I loved them. The fights, the drop kicks, it was all great. The end, when he's crying, but it's raining, so is that tears or is that raindrops? I don't know. But there was a little tinge of satire here, and I loved it too. The acting was great. The cinematography was great. Although I did feel like it was a little bit on the darker side, but I guess that's part of the detective genre we have here. And I think Wiki says it's a neo-noir crime thriller, which those always tend to be on the darker side. So I get it. But at some moments, I felt like it was hard to see what was on the screen. Maybe not so relevant, but I had trouble distinguishing like maybe what was in the background of a certain scene or something.
Yeah, it's got a very brown filter. Not a lot of depth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll be the first person to tell you that I think crime dramas are just not very good normally. I think they do rely on that slow burn and for that whatever kind of climax is headed towards you. And obviously this shares a lot in common with its frustration as that Zodiac movie, that David Fincher movie, which is not nearly as good as this. How about you get out of the office, in that movie?
Damn.
And go fucking work like these guys. Boots on the ground, know what I'm saying?
Yes. They were hiding and everything. They were in some shit, man.
Yeah, and then here we had the guys baiting the killer. I mean, I'm with you. I feel the length too, but I'm very tolerant of it because of our characters and because of the dynamics of our three main cops, I guess. Because I really enjoy this uncertainty and just desperation of at least our main guy, pegging the suspect, pegging the culprit right away. Like, this is the guy, he did it. We're gonna even go as far as faking evidence to just kind of get this case closed because it's obvious it was this guy. And sort of like Monster, it makes you kind of get on the same page as him. Like, yeah, let's get this guy,
Like that creep.
Yeah, like that special dude. Like, how does he know all these details, right? That was like that big lingering kind of thing. Like, our main dude said that he didn't recite that with him, but, we see him torturing him. Can we trust him? Like, sort of. I mean, he's a charming, likable character. He's just desperate to get this job done because he's infatuated by kind of American know-how of handling the situations and wants to be good at something, right?
Yeah, but he totally loses his credibility when he implanted evidence. And I think from then on, we're supposed to call bullshit on everything he says.
But it's kind of funny because he finds more and more likely suspects, Because, like, damn, he's maybe really on to something, but he's basically just another criminal.
I really do like that he has this wake-up call after the mentally challenged dude dies and after his partner has his leg amputated.
Yeah.
Like, this moment of, oh shit, this is real. It's almost not a joke anymore. Not saying that he was treating it like a joke the whole time, but he was kind of lollygagging. He was, like, okay, now it's you, let's implant some evidence. We just got this guy, we need him to confess. And he took it as serious as his attitude was at that point in the film. But then he went through this traumatic thing with both of those events that he had this realization that, oh my God, I don't know by looking at people's eyes if they're guilty or not. And he's the one who has to stop that detective from Seoul to not murder the third suspect. Like, he grew up. And I like that it kind of ties in a little bit with the title. I actually think the title has two meanings because I had a hard time grasping the title of the movie. Like, whose memories are we talking about here? And in a way, we're talking about his memories of this event because we have him in that final scene. Kind of, I don't want to use the word reminiscing because reminiscing kind of has this like positivity to it, thinking about the past, the good old times. But whatever the word for that is, but thinking about the bad times. So it gave me that vibe of, okay, it's his trauma that we are experiencing in the movie. But then it's also the memories of the victims and the families and the other two detectives that went along on this joyous ride with him. But then we have that moment where he breaks the fourth wall, staring into us when that little girl tells him that the face she saw was just of an ordinary man. And then, he looks at us, the audience. So it could be you, could be me, it could be your neighbor. I don't know. But this kind of, social commentary on keeping these memories alive of what happened to these victims.
You're hitting on a really important note here, I think, in that this movie is fictional, but inspired by a real serial killer in Korea, which helps preserve this film. Because you're hitting on an ultimate meta, because the killer and the incident that inspired the film, along with the time period, of course, during the 80s, with the state of the police and sociopolitics, our main guy here very well was looking through the audience for the real killer. Not that killer would feel anything because
he's a killer.
He's a killer, and he's psychotic.
Yep.
But we all hope for some, glimmer of the smallest amount of empathy. And we actually know that the killer that inspired these sequences in this movie had seen the movie.
No way.
And he said some things during his confession.
Oh my god.
And one thing that kind of stuck out to me, we'll just call him Lee. During Lee's confession, he said, "I still don't understand why I wasn't a suspect. Crimes happened around me and I didn't try to hide things, so I thought I would get caught easily. I bumped into detectives all the time, but they always asked me about people around me."
Oh my god. That's so eerie.
And that's why I kind of bring up this point of fictionalizing and even exaggerating maybe certain points, of course, making it somewhat of a satire, versus something like the Zodiac film, which is inspired by the Zodiac Killer. Memories of Murder starts to enter this space where it can, and I think effectively does, transcend the audience into finding much more in the film, like what you're talking about.
It should almost be the type of movie that puts things back into perspective for you. You have movies like The Zodiac Killer. You have all these true crime podcasts and the awesome series from Netflix with Jeffrey Dahmer and Gacy and all these notorious, Bundy, all these notorious serial killers. And what do? We love them. It's like a super thin line between almost worshiping what these people are capable of doing. This is a serial killer that happened to this movie, and we didn't make him the star of the movie. We creeped you out and said it could be anyone. And that quote that you just said from that guy, like, confirms it, yeah, that it really could be anyone. He bumped into the detectives, like, holy shit. And people around him, like, oh my god. But, it's like we did a 180 and now we just can't get enough of these mystery films, these crime films and series. Because the type of movie of like this, Memories of Murder, and the crimes actually committed were what made women not want to walk alone at night anymore, or everyone having cameras now on their houses and all these extra securities and whatnot. So I don't know, there's this kind of like glorification of it too.
Yeah, it's a funny duality. It's hard to blame anyone wanting to tap into that taboo of seeing what Jeffrey Dahmer does at his house.
Yeah, I mean, I got so excited that you told me there was a confession and some extra things from this murder of this movie.
It's an interesting point, really, to bring up, because it's a lot like kind of the glorification of violence, just in general, across all media. And does the presence of it imply the tolerance and glorification of it? And of course, not intention is a big part of that formula. But when you have something like that Jeffrey Dahmer biopic-y thing that's like deeply pornographic about his life, like it's so explicit,
yeah,
that you gotta question it. It's like, it's very good, the biopic series, I think on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
But funny enough, it comes at it in such a neutral way that it feels romantic, at times at least. And that's one reason I love this movie, because it approaches it from a point of complete uncertainty. And it reminds me of this thing that some professors say, maybe specifically math professors, they'll say something like, this theorem corollary is easy. If you were left in a room with, these basic principles, you would be able to figure this out by yourself in a matter of a few hours. And I feel like that's one of those things that's a little overused in those scenarios, because most things are not very obvious to most people. Otherwise, we'd all be mathematicians or whatever great scientists. But these guys have these tools, these like theoretical connections to potentially get receipts from the radio, to be able to kind of control an area, to run forensics and get DNA and ship it to where it needs to go to get analyzed. But they're not very good at it. But it's their livelihood, and they want to solve crimes. They want to be decent cops. And then they fall prey to being obsessed, right? Then they get frustrated. They bring a cop in from Seoul. He has a really sweet pendulum swing. He's very FBI-like, very stoic in the beginning, and he becomes even more frustrated than our main guy, right? And it's just an awesome development and perspective of a crime case.
Yeah, that's very well said. And to one of your earlier points, these Netflix series have actors like Zac Efron and Evan Peters to play these serial killers, and of course we find them hot, so it is kind of sexualizing this whole thing. They know what we like at this point, and I don't think we're becoming desensitized to murder and killers. I mean, I'm the first one to lock the door when I get in my car. I'm the first one to lock my door when I get in my room. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think there's that going on. It's just like a whole new thing we like to watch and just kind of admire that actually happened. Because how many serial killers do you hear about today? Not many. And to your point about them having the tools, I don't know about that, which I think might be a point this movie is trying to make, that they are in this poor town and they don't have the adequate resources to conduct an investigation like this. Because not only do they have to have someone come from a bigger city to come help, they don't have the men to station and watch potential suspects, and our detective here falls asleep and he completely misses, and who knows if they would have had someone watch him during those 2-3 hours he was gone, they could have eliminated him because he was, I don't know, somewhere else eating food. Well, I guess he had just eaten, but he was somewhere else, and completely eliminated him as a suspect. Because it was so chaotic, especially in the beginning with the kids, and the kids were mocking the detectives. Like, that kid was a foot away from a dead body. Like, that's just ridiculous to think about something like that happening today, especially here in the States. And okay, yes, they had the ability to send DNA to America and get it analyzed there, but how inconvenient is that? And also, you have things like DNA tampering and not adequately gathering your sample for it to be able to be shipped off to America. Like, I don't know how long semen is good for it to be able to be analyzed. Do you have to keep it cold? Like, I don't know. There are a lot of lacking resources that these detectives have, adding to that frustration and that desperation.
So it seems like they have mostly the resources, but they're just not very capable. And I feel like that's echoed in the real story of what happened in Korea. Because I think when these murders were going on in the late 80s, they did have over 1 million police, I think, search across this province in Korea.
Okay.
But at the same time, they may not have the exact tools to effectively kind of, do like an archaeological dig across the whole province. So it kind of feels like Bong Joon-ho is sort of saying that no matter if you have 1 million people or 3 guys, it's effectively the same result because you guys suck at your job, which apparently Korean police during the 80s did because of other things happening in the country.
Okay.
So to your point in the very beginning, he's definitely making fun of many things here.
Yeah.
In a crazy ass way, because this is a very over the top movie.
Yeah.
That's very serious. Yeah,
because I was reading that the peaches being inserted inside the women and all these tools and stuff.
Those didn't look like peaches. Those look like pieces of fish.
That's what I'm saying, that these like filters and lighting and I don't know was like off. Like, I couldn't tell, and yes, you are right, they did not look like peaches until they took the pit out, and I was like, okay, peaches, got it. But all these random objects that were inserted inside these women, and I was like, okay, that's weird. He's trying to make a weird movie here, but that actually happened. So there's these elements that actually happened, some that didn't. They were a little fictionalized, which we knew that.
I'm sure because when like Koreans were seeing this movie, the adults of the time, they were seeing this and they were probably getting these flashbacks of like from the newspapers and TV and stuff, what was happening.
That's crazy. That's crazy to experience something like that. I don't know if we've had something quite like that because of all the murder series and movies and whatnot that have come out were from not our time, not our childhood. So that's kind of, I don't know, weird to experience.
It does kind of seem like the 70s and 80s was like the heyday of serial killers for some reason.
Yeah.
The convergence of technology to make it happen and to get away and hide yourself, but not technologically sound enough to identify your ass right away with all these, cameras, like you said, and DNA testing.
It's almost like, well, we're glad it happened because now look where we are with our technology that we can get your ass so quick. But it's kind of eerie that had to happen in the first place. So I like that. There's also a point to be made about our detectives living in a small rural area. And those are the areas that tend to be incompetent with something like this.
Yeah, and probably underfunded too.
Yeah.
That speaks to the entire world.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Not just South Korea, but a lot of places. I mean, even here, a lot of places in the US, maybe still to this day. But I do love the flawed nature of the justice system in this movie. And it gave me very similar vibes to that Netflix show, Making a Murderer. I don't know if you saw that one with me with Stephen Avery.
No.
But it really hit when they were interrogating the mentally ill kid and Stephen Avery's nephew, which they said his IQ was borderline deficient. I don't know what they said, and how he attended like special education classes, all these things. So, he was maybe on the dumber side, and he also got coerced by the police to admit that he and his uncle had killed that lady. So it just gave me those very similar vibes with the police telling them like, okay, now say this next. Like, okay, I'll say that next. And then having those like random moments where it's like, well, that was a little oddly specific. Like our dude here in the movie, like, what the heck? Okay. I like when they bring in the nature of the justice system and just how it's not great.
Yeah, we see a little bit of that with Richard Jewell too.
Yeah. They just want to catch the bad guy so bad. For what? For their ego? I don't know. For the money? I don't know. But
I mean, sometimes they're confident they got the guy.
I mean, like our guy here. Like the detective from Seoul. Like he was so confident he was about to shoot him. No matter what the DNA test said.
We are too. At this point. That's the guy.
Yes. Yes, I agree. That was the guy. And then he cuts up the papers or throws them or whatever. And you're like, okay, so it's not the guy. And then he pulls out the gun. You're like, yeah, it could still be the guy. You're right. Kill him. Which I think that was my favorite part of the entire movie. Would you call that a false ending?
No, that's your proper climax. Although we don't get any proper resolution here. That is that moment you're on the edge of your seat.
That was my favorite part. I loved everything about it. Everything from the dramatic, like tearing up the envelope and it was still bloody. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, how are you going to show that to your boss while it's all bloody and stuff? Like, how are you going to justify all this? And the other guy's still handcuffed and running away. And then there's a train coming. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yes, that was awesome. Everything about it.
There were a bunch of little setups across the whole film to help build these little anxieties because we had just seen that guy get hit by the train. So we got another train coming. Who's going to get hit? Because that's in the back of our mind.
Yup.
And of course, the obvious one is when the song plays on the radio. Another girl's dying.
Yep.
God damn. Guys, better get going.
And the rain, yeah.
The rain, yeah. I do like Bong Joon-ho's fascination with America. And America always being this like place of order and know-how in the back of his movies. They're the heroes. I love it. It's so funny.
I like it too. And it's just funny how that is, even in other countries. How America is the land of the dreams, where you're going to go get out of your situation It's where they got all your problems solved. Because America at this point has DNA testing figured out.
All right, man. Well, thank you for watching another Bong Joon-ho film with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess for me?
My budget guess is $5 million US. Take that as you will. This is tricky because it's an older film, but not too old. But it's also Korean, so I had such a hard time.
It says here that it was 2.8 million, so you're in the ballpark.
Okay.
And it went on to make 1.2 million, so nothing.
Dang.
I'm sure this movie has made quite a bit in DVD and whatever sales, though, because it's become a major classic of the crime genre and just worldly films. So
I bet you got a big spike when that guy got caught. I don't know what year that was.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
Well, over on Letterboxd with 531,000 people, they weighed in at a 4.4.
Wow.
I mean, the world favors really great crime dramas just in general, as we've already established, really.
Question. Is Rush Hour...
No.
All right. Well, that answers my question. I'm giving this a 2.5. I think 4 point whatever is a little high, but that's just me.
I think Zodiac's super high, too.
What's Zodiac? Please don't tell me it's in the 4s. That movie was so boring. I love Jake Gyllenhaal and all, but that movie was pretty boring.
Zodiac is at 4.0.
Jesus. No way. That movie is probably like a 0.5. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not 0.5. Maybe a 1. Like 0.5 is like Strays.
Yeah, Memories of Murder is infinitely better from every angle.
Yes.
I think I'm sticking on a 3.0.
Okay.
You know, I don't love it, but I love a lot of things about it. It's a hard recommend to anyone who likes thriller type things, you know?
And also the people that love Okja, I don't think would love this movie. But I don't know. My mom loves Okja and I think she would love this movie. But she also loves Korean anything. Korean food, Korean soap operas.
Korean men. But thank you again for watching this movie with me, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on patreon.com/filmistines, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come request a movie, come subscribe, come write in. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Filmistines, signing off.